Okay, choir, you need to arrange yourself how you were in the choir room right here, and then we'll move to the front when it's our time.
I'll just get okay. There's always that.
You feel today, Gary?
Yeah, that one. We got these done on Saturday. That's here.
There's still some seats for you, Comp 1 students.
Probably didn't see him, right? Wait for practice.
All right, I have 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Jessica, roll call. Liz? Here. Williamson?
Here.
Mullen?
Here.
Donnelly? Hampton?
Here.
Maher?
Here.
Husinga? Here. Any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
And motion to approve agenda?
Second.
Roll call. Liz? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Husinga? Yes. All right, student spotlight.
So this is the Mount Pleasant High School show choir. However, we're going to sing one of their show choir tunes for later in the year. That's okay. We're going to sing their combined tunes from their choir concert that we were just able to have in the chapel yesterday. So this is the show choir singing "In My Life."
James. There are places I'll remember all my life, though some have changed. Some forever, not for better. Some have gone, and some remain.
All these places have their moments with lovers and friends. Can recall some are dead and some are living. In my life, I love them all. Do 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 But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you, and these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. In my life, I love you more, though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll just stop and think about them. In my life, I love you more. In my life, I love you more.
Film. It's good, bro.
All right, next up we have citizen comments.
Anybody here for citizen comments?
Next we have approval of minutes, claims, and financial report.
At your table, you'll have a handout of 3 pages. We're going to go ahead and go to page 2. So right here. So this is August 2024. We don't have all of the property tax receipts in for September yet, so I will get those mailed out to you as soon as I get that report put together. But you did not receive August of 24. I just wanted to point out the revenues that we received for the month: student activity management, PEPL, capital projects, debt service, and nutrition. There are no property tax or very minimal state aid that come in August, like July. So student activity, football, volleyball, gate receipts, your student and adult pass sales, those would all be up there, and interest earnings. Management, this is mostly probably all interest. Same with PEPL, because again, there's no property tax. Capital projects, however, this is our sales tax collection for the month, as well as some interest. Debt service, this is the Apple lease. So we're done with that now, thank goodness. But nutrition, the 50,352, that is meal deposit revenue as well as some interest. Then on the flip side, it's a different story because this is where a lot of expenses happen in the summer months. So student activity, getting ready for the seasons. Then we have management fund. This is our insurance premiums. PEPL, let's see, you've got the Apple lease in here. So the 514 gets transferred. So that is an expense because it was transferred here. But then also there's a lot of software, the copier lease that are purchased for the school year. Then we have capital projects here. Again, the summer months. Out of that, we had the rental of Central Campus. We did some high school carpet. Van Allen and Middle School had some masonry. So just various projects that happened over the summer. Debt service, the Apple lease came in, went out. And again, we're finished with that. And then nutrition, this is just, it's food, getting ready for the school year, the purchase of food. So then this is the balances in the account where we're at. So August, the general fund, you think personnel, benefits, salaries, we're 7 right here. And that's really good, thinking that we don't have any state aid or property taxes in here right now. Student activity fund, and then we've got management. Again, really good after we've paid all of our insurance premiums. You still have a very healthy balance. PEPL, again, healthy balance. Capital projects, assuming, you know, with all of the software costs and all of the summer projects coming out of there, you still have a really nice balance. Debt service, from here on out, this is just going to be interest revenue that's coming in, so that's going to continue to build. You guys will decide probably sometime this year if you want to do anything with that money. Nutrition, very good balance here too. So that was all. Do you guys have any questions? No? Okay.
Motion to approve minutes, claims, and financial reports.
So,
Second,
second.
roll call.
Lentz,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Mullen,
Yes.
Hamilton. Hampton.
I didn't know it. Yes.
Maher.
Yes.
Husinga.
Yes.
On to reports. First up, we have student and family advocate services.
All right, Martha. So Martha's going to share, we've been working hard on the changes in the law. And Martha's going to share a lot about the process that we have been going through. The changes in the law this last legislative session, parts of it really focused on student attendance and really put some measurement stops on that whole process. If a student is gone 10% of the days, if a student is gone 15% of the days, if a student is gone 20% of the days. All of that was done legislatively at the state level. And so this is our response to the legislation, and they kind of spelled out the process as well, which is what Martha's going to talk about.
So, hello, I'm Martha Peterson. I'm going to talk about attendance, understanding the problem, what we're doing to work towards some solutions. Go ahead. For those of you that don't know who I am, I'm the student and family advocate for the district. That is a position that is a pre-K-12 position. I am the sole person in that role. I wear lots of hats in that role. I am the 504 coordinator. I am our homeless liaison. I really work hard to connect families to community resources. But right now, I would say I'm spending about 80% of my time on attendance. Yeah, John and I have been digging into this quite a bit. So what is the problem and what can we do? The problem is that kids aren't coming to school, and this is not a unique problem to Mount Pleasant. It is not a unique problem to Iowa. It is a nationwide, honestly, kind of crisis right now. Really predominantly sort of post-COVID. And there's some information in here. So we've kind of had a shift in how we look at attendance over the last, more than just this year even. We've sort of already been switching from that old school look of that it was those unexcused absences that really mattered. You know, you could call in your kid and say, oh, well, they're sick today, or we're taking a quick trip to Disney. Those were excused and no harm, no foul. But what the research is really showing is that every day a kid misses school, every day you guys aren't there, really matters because you're losing out on that instruction, and the cumulative effect of missing too many days has lots of consequences. So John was mentioning we look at that 10%, the definition of chronic absenteeism is that 10% mark. We here in Mount Pleasant have a 175-day school year. That is 17.5 days in a year. Sounds like a lot when you just sort of say it, boom, 17 and a half days, but that's like 2 days a month. That's not actually all that many days. And we have a lot of people hitting that mark. And again, as John mentioned, there's now this new law that makes us have certain things we have to do at that 10% mark, 15, 20. So Senate File 2435, I feel like I literally have dreams about this, which just is a bad thing. So in this law, it asks us to look at attendance by a grading period. We here in Mount Pleasant have chosen to look at that by our semester. So the semesters are the grading periods that we're looking at. As it becomes concerning, so prior to that 10% mark, we are making phone calls to parents. I've got some of my principals here in the room right now. We've been making those calls. We've been really trying to explain the new law. We've been just trying to explain that we're just here to help you not get to the marks where bigger and worse things have to happen. At the 10% mark, what we are now required by law to do is send a certified letter stating that you've missed 10% of that first semester. First semester is 89 days, so we're looking at 8.9 is the magic number right now. Once you've missed 8.9, and first semester goes till January 17th. We already have a handful of people who've missed more than 8.9. We're only in October. So yeah, we're starting to send those letters. Those letters cost $5.54 a pop. That's a new Iowa law. It is stated in that law that it has to be a certified letter. So that is one of our requirements at the 10% mark. That letter then also gets sent to the county attorney. Just that one we can send by email, so that doesn't cost us anything. At the 15% mark, which I believe is 13.4 days in the first semester, then we have to have a family engagement meeting. We will bring you, if it's you that's missed the school, we'll bring you in, we'll bring your family in, and we will talk about what we can do to not let this get any worse. And what can we do to improve? What can we maybe do to make sure this doesn't happen in the second semester? So it's going to be lots of problem solving, kind of getting to the root of what is keeping you from coming to school. Is it a transportation barrier? Are you having a lot of illness? Are you just refusing to come to school? We see a lot of refusal right now. So whatever the barrier happens to be, we want to work to kind of get to the root cause and hopefully see improvement moving forward. That family engagement meeting can happen prior to that 15% mark. That's just sort of the last point that it does have to happen at that point. And then finally, at the 20% mark, by grading period, we would turn that student's name over to the county attorney. And this is where the wording in the law is that they may instigate truancy proceedings. They still use that word truancy. So that's at that 20% mark. That means you've missed, just shy of 18 days in the first semester. Now that's a lot of school. And we did meet with the county attorney, actually John and I, along with superintendents from all of the Henry County schools. We met with the county attorney and the assistant county attorney. And I think their plan is more often than not, they will get going on those proceedings. Exemptions. There are a handful of exemptions. They are graduation requirements if you've already met them, court-ordered things like if you have jury duty or if you're locked up in juvenile detention, doesn't count against you. Religious services, things related to IEPs, 504s, but really the most important one on this list is medical notes. So that is one of the sort of educational pieces that we are really stressing when we make those calls. with admin, make sure you're getting that doctor's note. If you have a dentist appointment, get a note. If you're being seen for an illness, get a note. If you have a treatment, get a note. So those notes do allow us to code it slightly differently, and then those days do not count. I didn't know, do you want me to talk about the family one? We'll just keep it. All right, so I do have a little data, because I'm kind of a data geek. I know, Angie's cheering over there. So nationally, in the 2021-22 school year, so that first year after COVID, this is nationwide, just shy of 30% of students, or 14.7 million, missed 10% or more of their school. That compared to 2019, pre-pandemic, with only 16%. So we went from 16% of students missing 10% or more to just shy of 30, basically doubled those numbers. So that's what I meant when I said this isn't unique to Mount Pleasant. This is a nationwide kind of crisis. It has creeped down a little bit the following year, 22-23, just shy of 28% students missed that 10% mark or more. So slight improvement, but it hasn't been an improvement. We certainly haven't been getting anywhere near 16 in the last few years. I don't know, do you want to click on the first link?
Yeah.
So this, oh dang, I was already signed in. We'll just skip it. Basically, I'm just going to point out that across the state of Iowa, we are very, very comparable, like within a percentage mark, honestly, of the state averages. Those two state of Iowa data points that I was going to point out, one of the things that they look at is average daily attendance. And it's really common to look at a school, and actually our state average is like 92% of students attend every day. That sounds good. When you're looking at percentages, anything in the 90s is usually like, sweet. But then that same school that has 92% daily average attendance might have still 26% of their students missing 10% or more. So 1 in 4 kids is missing 10% or more. And I think people have just started to realize that we weren't looking at the right data when it really came down to it. Oh, I bet that, see if the last link will take you to something meaningful. Yeah, okay. I was planning on having my computer. So the Mount Pleasant data that I was going to share is that we were very similar. Pre-COVID, we had a chronic absentee number of, I think, 10% actually in the 2019 year. And we are in our last year, right in that mid-20s mark, 27, 26, remember, yeah. So we're very comparable. So what can we do to help? This is some of what we are doing, some of what we're getting ready to do more of. We have a district-wide attendance committee. So we're actually meeting this Friday. We've met one time previously. So we're just kind of getting going with that work. That committee is sort of we're getting ready to set a district-wide goal when it comes to chronic attendance. We're going to streamline our processes and then roll out some of those attendance initiatives that we're looking to do. We are having those individual meetings that I mentioned. I meet with every building admin roughly once every couple weeks to look at that building's attendance. Start to make those calls, make those connections to families. Tiered supports, just like we use that sort of pretty little triangle with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 supports for academics and for behaviors. There's a very similar model that we're going to look at for attendance. What can we be doing sort of universally to prevent and educate? A lot of this just comes down to education. I think there's been a shift in like how parents value attendance and how students value attendance. It's like, I'm just not going to go today. And we find that often that if a student says, I don't want to go, parent kind of doesn't want to fight the fight. And they say, okay. Whereas like, I'm going to date myself, but back in the 70s and 80s, if I said I didn't want to go to school, I was told, yeah, well, you're going to school. So there has been a big shift in our, I think, society as a whole. And then finally, conditions for learning. A lot of the research around attendance, what it kind of comes down to is that's the part that the district needs to really be focusing on. What can we do as a district to make our kids get up every day and say, I want to go to school? Is that school a place that they want to be? Do they have a good connection with their teachers? So it really is on us to do what we can do in that sort of universal tier 1 area to try to promote those conditions for learning. And then that one should work.
Yeah.
This has become my attendance go-to. Attendance Works is a really amazing website. If you want to scroll down, John, this is that, those tiers, just their visual, that tiered approach to attendance. And then if you want to scroll down even farther, they have a similar graphic for sort of those positive conditions for learning. So this is a lot of what we're going to use as we continue to move forward in our district's work. They have so many resources, and that's what I put on this table back here. So as you're leaving, I encourage you to just stop and take a look at, that's just a sampling of some of what they have on there and some of what we're using. So go back. Finally, I just want to end with these last few slides. I kept them in here because this presentation, starting about here, is what we presented to our incoming kindergarten families who at Kindergarten Roundup this spring. This was also presented to our entire staff this fall when we came back in August. So we're trying to just sort of start from that place of getting everybody on the same page. So these are some of the reasons why we really think attendance is important. Coming to school, it creates a really good habit, a habit that hopefully carries through with you throughout your schooling and then your employment and beyond. It's easier to form friendships and have peer relationships when you're actually at school. All of our kids benefit from the majority of our students being there every day. That classroom that has 4 or 5 chronically absent students, those kids that are there every day are there's going to be an effect on them too, because that teacher is stopping, trying to reteach as much as possible within the constraints of what they still have to keep moving forward with. So it really is to the benefit of everybody. We all know that a handout that we can give you after you've missed a day is not the same as hearing the lecture from your teacher. Lots of our kids that are missing, they're missing for just sort of some really basic reasons. And so we want to sort of switch that mindset of get them to school, because we have school counselors and we have school nurses and we have 2 nutritious meals per day. And so there's a lot of support that we can wrap around a student if they're in our building. If they're at home, watching TV, sleeping, whatever, we can't wrap those supports around them. And then finally, it's a predictor of reading scores, which you'll see on the next slide. This one I know might be hard to see, but if you can see how this pencil kind of goes all the way over here, this is just looking at K1, kindergartners and first graders. This is nationwide data, national data. So kindergartners and first graders with good attendance in both of those school years, 64% of our kiddos are reading at grade level by 3rd grade. This next pencil is where they have iffy attendance in both of those years. So they haven't actually reached chronic absenteeism, but they're missing 8 to 9% each of those 2 years, drops to 43% are reading at grade level. If they're chronically absent in one of those years, not both, just one, drops to 41. And if they're chronically absent in both of those school years, 17% of those kids are reading at grade level. That's an incredible drop from coming both of those years to not coming both of those years. And when we look at who is missing school, some of our worst percentages are in those K1 years. Then it kind of gets better in elementary and junior high, and then it starts to kind of get bad again as you get older. So there, I think, is a lot to be said for really, really trying to educate our new families before they enter the school district about the importance of attendance. This is just sort of giving parents some tangible things that they can do, make those appointments outside of school hours, have a backup plan. We don't want you to miss because you have car trouble. It's okay to come to school with a tummy ache. It's okay to come to school with a sniffly nose. We don't want you if you have a fever. We don't want you if you're throwing up. Those things are still true. But a lot of families are keeping kids home for really minor things, and we want them in school. Yeah, and again, I like to link attendance works. I'm just doing everything I do these days. Oh, are you going there? No, you don't have to go there. Wow. That was just a superfluous link. This is a screen that I left in here on purpose because this was one of the pieces that I tried to really hammer home when I presented this to our staff. sort of what we can each individually do, but I think it holds true to all of us that are maybe community members too. Specific to the school, I encourage our staff to be really mindful of the language that they use. So it's tempting when Johnny walks in after missing 4 straight days to be like, so glad you could join us, Johnny. But instead, let's welcome him. Let's say, I'm so glad you're here. Let's get you to class. Really wrap around him and make him feel like we're so excited that he's walked into the building. The second one says connections. Again, it's about making sure that a kid has someone that they want to go to school every day to see. It might be their teacher, it might be the custodian. We want to have those connections with our students. Communicate. Ultimately, the people in the building are really the eyes and the ears. So if they're the one that hears someone talk about, I haven't come to school because I'm living and we had to get kicked out of our house and I'm living at grandma's. If that's the barrier to attendance, we need to know that. And so just encouraging everybody to always be talking and making sure that the admin in the building knows, make sure I know. And then finally, be an attendance advocate. Part of why we're kind of doing this presentation tonight is because we want someone who's out in the community. You might not have a person in the school district anymore, but maybe your friend or neighbor has a grandkid in the district. And when you're having dinner at each other's houses, you can say, attendance is really important. So we want you to all be out there being attendance advocates. I think that's it. Attend today, achieve tomorrow. Are there any questions?
What, again, did you say the county attorney may choose to do?
So at 20%, they may instigate truancy proceedings, which essentially means the family would end up in front of a judge. And there can be fines involved, there can be jail time. I mean, and I will say, even as of last year, what happened was when we turned a family over to the county attorney, they sent a letter. It's on county attorney letterhead. It was a little bit scary, and it did actually make reference to you could face fines, you could face jail time. Now that the law is written that we send that certified letter, they were very clear with us. They no longer have any intention of sending that letter. Similarly, the other thing we could do last year was we could ask for a mediation meeting at the county attorney level. So it was their mediator. We would go there with the family and the student, similar to the family engagement meeting, talk through what's happening, what can we do to change this, what can we do to improve. They are not providing that service anymore either, because in the law, the way they read it, they're like, well, that's the school district's job now. So what they will do is at the 20% mark, they would then go that next level. And it's part of why we're sharing both of those steps with them. So when we come to them with someone who's missed 20%, they're going to know that name. They will have seen the letter. They will have seen the family engagement meeting. But yeah, they're probably going to end up in front of a judge. So that was a good question, which I should have had.
So at what point is one resource enough?
One resource?
You're the only resource, right? But, I mean, so at what point, if, let's say our chronic absenteeism was at 40%, how much can one person handle?
That's such a good
Martha's
question.
good. She can handle it.
That's such a good question, Angie. I mean, it is a time suck.
It's a lot.
It's a time suck.
I mean, for our building administrator, it's a whole another level. There was conversation among the county superintendents about not even facetiously saying, I'm gonna have to hire somebody to track attendance, and districts in the past would have that person called the truancy officer, who would follow up on attendance, and they have really added a couple of additional layers that they previously had been doing. I mean, I don't think any of us disagrees with putting a focus on attendance. We need to put a focus on attendance based on the data, and we know that it's directly related to achievement. Good attendance is directly related to achievement. So focusing on it's not a bad thing. It's just the resources.
Yeah, when do we evaluate and know that?
Yeah, and I will say just historically, because this is my 4th year, being a person that looks at attendance. This is the time of year, I mean, with the new law, there's been a lot of upfront time and effort put into this. That will start to settle down because we have a letter drafted and now it's just plugging in a name, and we have an attendance, that family engagement plan, we have the format for that. That's all on that table if you want to peek at what those look like. But historically, like I mentioned, we've had a handful of people that were needing that letter. When we get into January and February, that list of people that need that letter starts to get so long, and that's when it really, it's easy to like lose steam, or not lose steam, but get behind on it. I mean, for lack of a better word, it is a lot of work as it continues to snowball, and it will, and it does.
So second semester, whatever day in January, then it's kind of a reset.
It is,
It
yep.
is a reset,
Yep,
yes.
we are, so, yeah, you can have poor attendance in the first semester, and there's still time to turn it around and have great attendance in the second semester.
I hate to ask this in one aspect, because it sounds like there's so much that you have to deal with and do. But you mentioned that high school attendance gets a little bit worse. Is there any plans to maybe meet with the business world, the industry segment of the community that some of these high school students are employed in, so that those businesses and industries know that this is law now? Because
Yeah,
people don't know this is law.
yeah.
I just wondered, I know you said you talked to the kids' parents are coming into school. What about the industry, the businesses?
Yeah.
in the community?
Yeah. I mean, the student that is missing school because of a work schedule, that's certainly a conversation we may have to have. I don't know if that's a huge representation of our students missing at the high school. Mr. Wilson's kind of going, well, not. Usually there's an arrangement already, they have enough credits where they might be able to miss 7th period to start their work shift early. So I don't know that that's abused very often, but yeah.
This law is for those, and we want everybody to come to school every day. This law is focused on those who are of compulsory age.
Yep.
So 6 years old to 16 years old by September 15th. So
That's a good clarification. The county attorney would not prosecute really a kindergarten family or a 17-year-old. Yep. We're trying to not over advertise that, because we do. We want them to come as kindergartners, and we want them to come through their senior year. We want you to come through their senior year. I don't think there's usually this many students, right? I can talk directly to you. You're all going to have great attendance, right? I don't want to meet any of you in a family engagement meeting. Please don't make it happen. Especially my tennis players. I have 4 tennis players out there.
What, if any, role did or does the ADA play in any resources or help in this?
The AEA,
Yeah.
to be fair, none that I'm aware of. Well, that's not true. Actually, the very first attendance conference that I went to was held by our AEA.
They actually just had a session last week, a chronic absenteeism session.
Yeah.
They had one person signed up, so we canceled. So I just think getting the word out, we got to
Yeah.
talk about getting the word out.
Yeah, I think it was 2 years ago, I went over to Burlington to an AEA event, and that's where I first learned about attendance work, so you have them to blame for that.
They're attempting to support, AAA's had a switch over in how they're providing their professional learning at the AAA, and we did a little cross wires there. And so, because I didn't know about that until I saw the sign. I thought it was good.
My guess is, I actually just went to the Iowa Best Conference back in September up in Iowa City, or Coralville, and I went to a session on chronic attendance, and I could have run the session. It was like this, and there wasn't I didn't learn anything new, and I was really bummed about that. But I think what I just presented to you is really, it's the cliff notes of what we're all dealing with, every single district in this state, and
I also add that the district-wide attendance committee Martha shared is just getting up and running. And I'm envisioning that being a support as well, so that you're not one person trying to do all of it.
Well, actually, and Attendance Works has, actually, one of the resources on there is how to set up your district attendance committee and how to have subcommittee, like, there is a model where then maybe Van Allen has their own little mini attendance group. Probably that would make sense to roll into like a BLT type of group, but the models are there. There's some really great resources to get that work going, to set district goals. So we aren't going to have to reinvent the wheel, which is nice. There's a lot of really good resources out there.
So is your typical day when names come in, you have to follow up on it?
Yeah, it's a little bit more, like today I met with Ashley and we went over Lincoln and Salem together. We evaluated from the last 2 weeks when we had met to this week. We looked at, so the kid that hadn't added any more absences in those 2 weeks, we didn't call that family again. We view that as and actually we've had some successes where we have called the family when it looked like it was really going south, and they have missed like 0.2 days since that conversation. So something we said got to them. It's a little bit more school by school. I will say Mr. Stone really handles attendance much more independently up here at the high school, bless his heart. But we consult, and actually the letter we now send and that family engagement meeting, that was Mr. Stone and myself putting that all together. I would probably say a little bit more Mr. Stone. So he's a great resource and partner in all of this too.
One of the interesting pieces of the legislation, and of course we don't want to get to this point, but it's kind of interesting that if a student is open enrolled to a district, if you hit 20%, and that then gets turned over to the county attorney, the open enrollment can be revoked, and they would have to return to their home district. So that's, if a student is open enrolled and you have a family engagement meeting, which has happened already this year, to say, listen, you're jeopardizing your open enrollment if you don't attend, because it can be revoked to 20%.
But then also we reached out, the county attorney said that if we turn over a name that's reached that 20% mark that is open enrolled, if they are enrolled in a Henry County school, our Henry County attorney will take that on. They will not pass the buck to Jefferson County if it's a Fairfield family or whatever. So.
And am I correct that this bill does not apply to private or charter schools?
There's really, there's zero accountability for homeschooling
And this is just state of Iowa's bill.
This specifically is, that's one thing I haven't looked into to know how many other states have done similar bills. But yes, everything we talked about is Iowa. Yep. I would imagine there's other states doing something similar, or at least prioritizing it. But I don't know.
Well, I'm not surprised. 2 years after COVID.
Yeah.
Probably some of those parents aren't going to work either. There's a problem in that area in the workforce as well.
Yep.
It's been a hard shift back, hasn't it, to on-site.
And there was sort of that, well, you didn't get to go to school during COVID and you were fine mentality. And so does it really matter if you're not in school? There's a lot there's a lot to dig into there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you.
Superintendent.
Okay, a few things in the superintendent's report I want to share with you. So, certified enrollment, the certified enrollment process happens in October. On the first school day in October is when all public school districts across the state of Iowa, it's called count day. And so you count the students that are registered in your school district on the first school day in October. And I believe this year was Tuesday, right? Tuesday, October 1 was count day. So we count all the students who are registered in our school district because enrollment drives funding. Enrollment, the state of Iowa, for every student, you receive a per pupil amount of dollars for every student who is enrolled in your school district. So count day is really important. It's one of the most important days financially in the year for the school district. So between that first day and first school day in October, which is count day, and October 15th, October 15th is when we have to certify that number. So tomorrow we have to hit the certify button on enrollment. Between that time, you're working to make sure that your numbers are correct. You're making sure that students, you don't have duplicate students in the system. I shared today on the radio that maybe you have a student in your system and that same student is registered in Fairfield. So you got to figure out, okay, where is that student? Because you don't want duplicate students. You need to know who resident students are, who are open enrolled students. So you're working all of that out between that first school day in October and the 15th. So we will certify tomorrow our certified enrollment. So I'll go through this with you just to give you an idea of where enrollment stands. This is the number to pay the most attention to right here. It's actual enrollment. And our previous year in 23-24 we certified 1,733.25 students. And you might say, well, how do you get 0.25? Well, students are depending on if they're a full-time student, perhaps a student is an English language learner, so they get a little bit more weighting, not 1.0, but part of that. A homeschool assistant student is 0.1. So anyway, that's how you get a partial student. But the actual enrollment, again, 1,733.25 last year at this time, and this year, 1,760.91. So that's an increase in our certified enrollment of just about 28 students, 27.66 students. And that's, historically for us here in Mount Pleasant, that's really fantastic. That's, we haven't seen an enrollment increase in many years. And so we're just very pleased with that number, 27.66. So just to kind of look down through it a little bit, the resident public students attending our school district, these are people who live within the boundaries of our school district. That was up 21, almost 22 students. Resident public students attending another Iowa public school. So that would mean open enrolled out students. Open enrolled out students were up just a little bit, 134.6 last year, 140.1 this year, so it's up 5.5. With dual enrolled students who are taking classes, you get some extra weighting there. That was up just a little bit. Going down here, open enrolled students who are open enrolled in to Mount Pleasant, non-resident public students attending our school district is 142.4. Last year was 150.8, so that was down just a little bit, 8.4. Our preschool program, statewide voluntary preschool program, what you can do is take these numbers and multiply it times 2, because preschool students are counted as 0.5. Because we have a half-day preschool, so they're counted as 0.5. So that was down just a little bit. About, if you multiply it, we're down 11 students in preschool from the previous year. The number of students who are receiving programming from our school district, again, is up 13.76. And then a couple final things here. Limited English proficient weightings. Again, if a student is an English language learner, they get some additional weighting so we can provide services for those kids. That was up just about 9, the weightings there. And then this final one, again, a legislative change a couple of years ago. It says ESA funded students. This is the
Educational
say it again.
Educational savings.
Thank you. I blanked on it. Educational savings account funded students. So these are students who are attending a private school from Mount Pleasant that are attending a private school and are receiving state funding for that education. And so last year we had 4 of those. This year we have 3, so it's down 1. So, but overall, actual enrollment up just about 28 students. Any questions on that? Okay, so we will certify tomorrow. Let's see, number 2, the IASB proposed legislative agenda. Our board, we sent in our legislative priorities a couple of months ago in August. And you can see the list here. There's 9 or 10 that the School Board Association is going to focus on in this upcoming legislative session. And our priorities made the list. They're the ones that are yellow highlighted here. So as I told one of the committees, the policy committee, seems that we're on the same wavelength with most of the districts in the state of Iowa. Some other items here, a school board work session 2 weeks from tonight. One of the things that we will do, we will have a candidate forum. I have confirmed 3 candidates who are running for the Iowa House, and a part of their legislative area is Mount Pleasant. So they're going to be here so that we can ask them some questions regarding their agenda for education. Jeff Shipley, who is an incumbent, is going to be here. Tom O'Donnell, who is running against Jeff Shipley, right? He will be here as well. And then Jeff Poulter, who is running against Taylor Collins, will be here on that Monday as well. Let's see. The IASB Director District 9 vacancy, I made mention of that in both of our committee meetings. So if someone if a board member is interested in representing at the state level, the School Board Association from Director District 9, our Director District, let me know, and you can be a candidate for that vacancy. Just a quick update on the Transportation Buildings and Grounds Central Receiving Facility. We had a meeting last Thursday. Things are moving along out there on 1515 East Monroe. If you haven't driven by there, East Monroe Street, just get out on Monroe and go as far as you can. It's one of the last sites there on the north side of the road. But the foundations are done and poured. Most of the floors are poured, so there's a bit of a pause in construction this week because the floors have to cure. The concrete has to cure for 7 days before they can get on it and then start building the actual structures. So it's coming along well. They're a bit behind only because they couldn't get concrete. It was difficult to get concrete scheduled. And so, but other than that, everything seems to be progressing well. Let's see, master planning update. So I mentioned to the committees, we have an internal master planning committee, and I've confirmed, I think there's 12 people on that list. I put that in your packet. So SVPA architects are heading up, are taking us through a master planning process. We're focused, a lot of our focus is on the elementary programming, elementary facilities, and elementary programming. And so our first meeting is on the 23rd of October from 2 till 4 p.m. This is an internal committee. That was that's what the architect has said. This is how we start this process. So you can see me, Dr. Butler's on there from the board. We've got Derek and Josh, Chad Binghouse, our Director of Buildings and Grounds. Jessica is on there. Katie Sands is going to be representing the elementary principals. Logan Wall is an instructional coach. Kurt Bjork is a teacher here at the high school. Amanda Dunn, teacher at Van Allen, and Allison Gracing from Salem. And then they did recommend having one parent on the committee, and Ryan Duffy he's the executive director there at the rec center. He'll be on the committee as well. So first meeting, October 23rd, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. And then just a reminder that our first SIAC meeting, actually will be here before you know it, December 4th. So not far away on School Improvement Advisory Committee as well. And that's the superintendent's report.
Anybody have any questions? Board committee reports, the summaries are in your packet. Anybody want to share anything from committee?
The site committee, the propane fueling station that's on the agenda for approval, there were multiple bids for that, and this is the low bid, basically, from the manufacturer.
I would just mention as well, we had a lot of conversation about the intersection improvements out here at Harvest Drive in South Grand. I reached out today to Brent Schleisman via email. He'll get right back to me, and we'll get something on the schedule so I can follow that up. And so we can keep that moving. So.
Other board communications? Does anybody have anything else to share? Nope. Consent items, personnel and open enrollment. We can take them separately or as a pair. Anybody have any questions?
I'd make a motion to take them as a pair.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jessica, roll call. Lenz,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Mullen,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
Maher,
Yes.
Ustenka. Yes.
Unfortunately, we had no unfinished business with this meeting. Fortunately, we had no unfinished business. So on to new business. Our first item is consideration to approve what Derek mentioned, the LP fueling station proposal.
Okay, so that's in your packet. I've got it up here on the board. The LP fueling station, a number of our school buses run on liquid propane, and so we need a fueling station at that new facility that I was just mentioning. We intentionally did not make that part of the overall bid package. We thought we could probably get a better price on that just by getting standalone bids. So the total bid here, the quote is $28,650 for a 1,000-gallon LP tank. As Derek mentioned, we did have other bids, some a little higher than that, one significantly higher than that. But when it's said and done, it will flip this around here. It's hard to see, but you have your dispensing spot right here, and then the 1,000-gallon tank here on skids. The bus will pull up beside that and fuel up with liquid propane. So we do. Yeah, we don't own the tank though. We don't own the tank or the pump. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's owned by B&B. It's at the bus farm.
They didn't want to do it, or this is better.
Yes, yeah. I think that the technology on this is better. It's safer. It's on skids, and so we could. This one they would have to lift it up and build the block wall for it and reset everything. I just felt like this was a better way to go.
Is this one a larger one, since it's 1,000 gallons?
Yeah, I'm not sure what's there. I don't think we have a 1,000-gallon tank. Well, we're probably 500 just looking at it.
If we own our house, then we could shop for prices, if prices are different as well, right?
You wouldn't have to go with the propane.
How, any idea how long 1,000 gallon?
That's a good question, Josh. I can get some answers on that for you.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve the LP fueling station proposal?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Jessica, roll call. Lentz? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher? Hustenka?
Yes.
Next, we have consideration to approve the transportation facility change order.
Okay, we did have another change order on the work at the facility. This adds pole bases for cord rail stations. This is where the buses are parked. Of course, when it gets cold out, those buses will need to be plugged in. And this was not on the plans, so we're going to have to add that. The cost for that is $82,0142. So I would recommend you approve. We're still, we are still even on our change order. We had a deduct for some lockers that it was new lockers. We're not going to order those. We're going to reuse some lockers that we already have. And then we have about an $11,000 deduct for a change in the truss system, actually an improvement in the truss system, and it's going to save us money. So as far as change orders goes, we are still even. The cost of the project is still that $3,028,000. So I would recommend you approve.
Questions or motion to approve the transportation facility change order?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call. Lentz? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher? Hustenka?
Yes.
Next, we have consideration to approve modified allowable growth for limited English proficiency.
Okay, so as I was mentioning, when we went through certified enrollment, we do get some additional weighting for students who are still working on their English language skills. And that's so that we can support the cost of the program. Just like with special education, the revenues that we receive for the program don't always meet the needs that the students have, or the actual cost of the program. And when your cost exceeds the revenues, because we want to serve our students, we have to serve our students. So you can receive modified allowable growth or unspent budget authority for those funds that you have spent. So last year, for the limited English proficiency, the cost of the program exceeded the revenues for the program, $58,292. It's, again, I just want to, it's nobody's fault. The students have the needs. You don't know what those needs are going to be or what the level of those needs are going to be. You might have a student, you might have a high school student that comes in with absolutely no English skills. So it's going to take more time and resources to support that student. So it's nobody's fault. It's just, you're just meeting the needs that you have, same way as you do in special education. So the modified allowable growth that we're allowed to receive here, or the unspent budget authority that we're allowed to receive, is $58,292.83. I recommend that you approve.
Any questions? Motion to approve modified allowable growth for LEP.
I would so move.
Second. Jessica? Williamson?
Yes.
Lynn? Yes. Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Hustenka?
Yes.
Next, we have the second readings of 5 board policies.
You can take them all at once. I'm happy to go through them if you want me to. They're in the packet. They're on the website, or excuse me, they're on the agenda, the electronic agenda. There have been no changes, no language changes since our last meeting.
So this would be the second reading of board policy 50101, compulsory attendance. Board policy 50101A, student absences excused. Board policy 50110B, truancy, unexcused absences. New board policy 50101C, chronic absenteeism and truancy. And board policy regulation 50101C, R1, chronic absenteeism and truancy. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of those?
So move. Approve all of them at once.
Second?
I would say.
Roll call.
Flint?
Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Hustenka?
Yes.
Next, we have first reading of board policy series 700, which is non-instructional and business services.
Okay, so again, just very quickly, school board policy, there are 9 series, 100 through 900. Every year we review 3 series so that all policies are reviewed once every 3 years. This is our first series this year, the 700 series, which is non-instructional and business services. So I reviewed our policies and put them against the policies from the Iowa Association of School Boards and recommend any changes that we have to the board. This first policy, credit and procurement cards, is a new policy. It's mandatory policy. It outlines really the appropriate use of district credit cards by personnel and procurement cards by personnel as well. We have always, as I mentioned to our policy committee, we've always had a handbook and handbook language on credit card and procurement card policies. We've never had it in board policy. This just came up as mandatory recently. And so this more specifically outlines the use of our credit cards and procurement cards. Jessica reviewed this, and you know, these are the practices that we have in place.
Any Any questions on 70314 credit reports? Next.
Okay, next. Okay, our current board policy on the school nutrition program, which falls in the 700 series, was one sentence. The purpose of the school nutrition program shall be to provide nutritional balanced meals to the school district on a nonprofit basis, which is accurate, but there was some revision to the policy to better really explain the purposes and the processes of the school nutrition program. It talks about we operate that program in each attendance center. We are affiliated, or we receive funding from the National School Lunch Program. It talks about who can use the facilities, when they can use the facilities, under whose supervision. That's in there. Obviously, it wasn't in that previous policy. Talks about the annual review for prices for school nutrition programs, which the board does every year. Sets the food service director as the administrator of the program, and talks about that the district shall comply with federal and state laws. We just, in the spring of last year, had our, once every 3 years, we had our school nutrition program audit. We were audited by the Department of Education and met the criteria, made the adjustments that they recommended. So again, this policy just better outlines the fullness of the program.
Any questions on that? And the third one is 70707 meal charges. Okay,
and then this is mandatory policy, and again, this became mandatory recently. It talks about meal charges. We did not have a meal charges policy in board policy. It was in our handbooks, and this is the language that is in our handbooks. It talks about the payment of meals, that meals are prepaid, how you can deposit money into your lunch account. What if you don't have sufficient funds and you won't be able to charge non-reimbursable meals? Again, just FYI, a reimbursable meal has to have all the nutrition components as outlined by the National Hot Lunch Program. So that's when they talk about a reimbursable meal, it means we can get reimbursed for part of the cost of that from the National Hot Lunch Program because it meets the requirements as a reimbursable meal. Talks about negative account balances and how what happens when a student has a negative account balance, what the district steps the district is going to take when a student has a negative account balance. Ultimately it could be turned over to collections. But again, I will say publicly that our hot lunch, the people who do our hot lunch program, work in the hot lunch, they work hard to communicate with families that you have a negative balance, you need to get some money in the student's account. So mandatory policy, that's those three I would recommend that you approve.
Any other questions? Motion to approve the first reading of the board policy 700 series, which included the 3 policies we just reviewed.
So. Second.
Jessica, roll call. Lind?
Yes.
Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Husenka? Yes.
Next, we have consideration to approve an IJAG fundraiser.
So the IJAG fundraiser, I don't have any documents in there on this one. They would like to, a week from tonight, work a Pizza Ranch tip night. They've done that for the last couple of years. They use those funds within their program to support different student activities. Generally, it's not supporting the IJAG the program itself, the program is funded, but it supports the students and some things that they like to do that would take those additional funds. So would recommend that you approve.
Motion to approve the IJAG funding.
Also move.
Second,
Second.
roll call. Lentz? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Hustenka?
Yes.
We have consideration to approve the National Honor Society fundraiser.
Yep, they would like to do a fun run on November 2nd. Of course, we'll start in front of the high school and use the bike trail. $25 would include a t-shirt. The money will help pay for National Honor Society yearly dues, awards for graduation, and NHS certificates. I recommend you approve.
Questions? Motion to approve the NHS fundraiser.
So moved.
Roll call. Lentz? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Hustenka?
Yes.
And finally, we have consideration to approve an FFA fundraiser.
So I know both Mr. Faith and Mr. Hampton are here. They are members, Mike's a member of the Rotary, and but the Christmas wreaths, selling 25-inch Christmas wreaths, $30 a piece, cost us $22, so profit will be $8 a wreath. Money to be used for renovations to the FFA chapter garden. Anything else they need to know?
No, that's mainly it.
Questions? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Jessica, roll call. Lentz? Yes. Williamson?
Yes.
Mullen?
Yes.
Hampton?
Yes.
Maher?
Yes.
Hustenka? The high school students have any questions? We won't make you introduce yourselves tonight since there are so many of you, but if anybody has any questions, we definitely introduce them.
Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
And that adjourns our meeting. 7:14. Hey, Brian, are you getting out early?
What?
Today's the 14th. Are you getting the It's come out. Make sure you get it.
Oh, come
I'll
on.
let you contact them.
Oh. Oh, so now, don't go behind the back and go to Kim and try to sell it again.
I think you can. I think you can.
Oh.
$5.
See how they are.
Yeah, from campus.
Oh, geez, it's been brought up there. It should be calling you now. Yeah, call it.
I'll check on that. And I don't know if you still do those to be said. They are going to. Yeah, absolutely. Good thought.
Yeah, so tell your sister one from her. Okay.
Serenaded. We were serenaded. And that is the kids doing
Yeah, there was.
Bye, Josh. Bye.
See you guys.
Yes.
I'm glad.
Bye, Josh.
See ya.
Candidates keep coming on TV like.
That was cool, yeah.
Yeah.
So many, yes.
I know, I really like it. That was a really nice turnout for that.
Thanks for coming, guys. Thank you.
You've ever seen.
Mrs. Bowen, I'll see you tomorrow. All the time.
I'm sure you all behave in school.
It's not a regular.
There is lots of.